Welcome back. Welcome back to M2H Academy. I am Royalty, and today we're gonna be talking about something that affects millions of men, but it often goes unnoticed as well. And when most people think about depression, they picture someone crying, they picture someone staying in bed all day, or just obviously just looking sad, right? Like, that's just what it is. But for many men, depression doesn't always look like sadness. So you already know what I'm going to say before we jump right into it. Go ahead and smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. You know, if you rocking with M2H Academy, as we're going to go ahead and we're going to get right into this right now, man. 5 hidden signs of depression that most men are ignoring. So as I stated, depression does not always look like sadness. It can resemble anger. It can look like exhaustion. In some cases, it can look like, working 80 hours a week. Yeah, I said that right. Working 80 hours a week, 60 plus hours a week. Sometimes it look like just saying like, I'm good, but quietly falling apart inside. And today we're going to talk about the 5 hidden signs of depression that many men are going through, or maybe going through, and why recognizing them early can make a huge difference in your life. So men typically miss the signs. Many of us grew up believing that we had to pass through everything. We had to push through everything. We had to, conquer everything. We had to manage every problem and situation. We learned to work harder instead of talking. We were taught to stay busy, instead of slowing down. Victim of myself. And that's just to carry a lot of the weight without asking. We were pretty much taught to do that. These are signs of a man, and that mindset can make it difficult to recognize when stress has become something that's much more serious. Depression is not a character flaw. It's not laziness, and it isn't something that you can always just tough out. Understanding the signs is one step that you can take towards actually like caring for yourself. So first sign we'll talk about, and I do have my notes kind of right here, help me out. So, the first sign we're going to talk about is anger. And anger that seems to come out of nowhere. And you hear a lot of dudes, and this new term, crash out. I don't know, man, I just crash out. No, the anger is coming from somewhere. It's not just coming out of nowhere. So not every man dealing with depression feels sad all the time. It's not something that's like, oh, I'm depressed and boom, yeah, I was in it for like 6 weeks. Although that could happen, sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it comes in waves. Sometimes, throughout your day, you just have moments where you start to feel irritable. Small things just suddenly start to like trigger big reactions. Traffic, disagreements with people at home, or minor mistakes that you make at work. But if you've noticed that you're constantly frustrated, snapping at people that you care about, or snapping at people and feeling ways like you're always on edge, it may just actually be worth asking yourself a deeper question. Am I angry, or am I hurting? The power of being present. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine about the power of being present, and and stopping in vital moments and asking yourself vital questions like, what am I going through right now? Or why am I feeling this way right now? Or what is the issue that I'm dealing with currently right now? You know what I mean? Like, these things are detrimental to our mental health. So we need to question, am I angry? Am I hurting? Sometimes anger is the emotion that people see, but underneath it may be a lot of emotional pain that has not been addressed. There may be a lot of things bottled in that may have not been released, and that's where that anger is coming from. So it's not coming from nowhere, it's stemming from somewhere. You just have to do the work and take the time to figure out where is it coming from. Sign number two would be just losing interest in what you used to enjoy. And these signs are coming from research study. They're coming from personal experience. Just things that when you come out of it and you look from that third, you're like, man, I was really going through that and I didn't realize. But these are other things that can happen, which brings up sign number two, is losing interest in what you used to enjoy. So take the time to think about the things that once made you feel alive. Basketball, working out, football, making music, fishing, gaming, spending time with kids. Like, now all these things are not there. Ask yourself, do these things still bring me joy? Or are they starting to feel like another task? Are they starting to feel like something else that I have to do versus something else that I want to do? So when you start to notice that the things that you once loved are no longer bringing that satisfaction into your life, that right there can be a sign that something deeper is going on. And just briefly taking the time to ask yourself, like, why am I not feeling so connected, to this hobby or interest anymore? Like, now I'm making a decision to not do it because I'm looking at it as a task instead of looking at it as, an enjoyable, activity that I'm partaking in. So like I said, when activities, no longer are bringing you that satisfaction, can be a sign that something deeper is going on. Another sign is constant exhaustion. So sign number 3 is constant exhaustion. You've slept, you've had coffee, but you're still feeling fatigued. You're still feeling tired, not just physically. You're feeling tired mentally. You're feeling exhausted emotionally. You're feeling, fatigued holistically. You're just trying to figure out, man, I did all the things, but I still just don't have that push. I still don't have that drive. Everything just feels heavier than it should. Even when making simple decisions, simple decisions are starting to be very difficult for you to make. Just what can be a simple yes or a no, you're taking so much time to process it, and that's just another sign of depression. Depression can affect our energy. It can affect, our motivation. It can affect our concentration, affect our sleep. Sometimes the most exhausting part is not what we're doing. It's the emotional weight that it carries. And that can be something that we're going through, and then the simple thought behind it, just carrying all that emotional weight behind it, brings on those feelings of depression. So that's sign number 3, which is constant exhaustion. So let me see where we at. So we got sign number 1, anger that seems to come out of nowhere, but understanding that it's stemming from somewhere. We just need to do the work to find it. We got sign number 2, losing interest in what we used to enjoy. So just looking at all the things in our life that used to bring a smile to our face, that used to make us feel rejuvenated, recharged. Now all of a sudden these things are not as enjoying as they were before. And then constant exhaustion. We're doing all the things. We're getting to sleep. We're, drinking the caffeine. We're resting, but physically, mentally, emotionally, we're still feeling drained. So, those are 3 signs, 3 hidden signs right now of depression that we may be going through. As we come into number 4, and that's just pulling away from people. Isolating yourself. When life gets hard, many men make that choice to isolate, go into a shell, disappear from the world and hide from those that they They truly, truly, they truly care about them. Stop answering text messages. Start skipping family gatherings and friend hangouts. Just start avoiding friends all around, screening calls, turning down invitations. Isolation can feel safer, in moments when you're dealing with depression, but it often makes the depression feel even heavier because you have to look at the situation like working in a department store. I can move this box for this customer if I want to, if I did it alone. But the box says team lift. So do I really have to carry this by myself? Connection doesn't always solve every problem, but it can remind you that you don't have to face everything alone. You have, people who may say, no, you got to step out in front of this thing, but I got your back. If another problem come and hit you from the side, I can jump in, I can help you out. I got your back. But pulling away from people is definitely a sign of, you may be going through some form of depression, So reach out, to that trusted friend or mentor or coach. And, sometimes just sitting in silence with somebody is enough. So just again, let's run through them as we got sign number 1. Before we do sign number 5, let's run through them as we got sign number 1, anger that seems to come out of nowhere. We got sign number 2, losing interest in what you used to enjoy. Sign number 3, constant exhaustion. And sign number 4, pulling away from people. And before we go ahead and we get into sign number 5 and we wrap this thing up, if you've rocked with me this long, go down and hit the like button, subscribe, follow to this podcast, to this channel, and continue to help me grow, continue to help me spread this awareness around men's health, as we need to be more aware of what we're going through. As we need to be more aware that we need to be, we need to create this change, to make stronger men, to build stronger communities, stronger families, what eventually builds a stronger world. So like, subscribe, comment down below. I would love to hear from you. Love to engage with you as we roll into sign number 5, and that's numbing the pain. Numbing the pain. Sometimes depression doesn't show itself through tears. It shows itself through escape. You find yourself drinking more than usual. Find yourself using drugs, find yourself figuring out anything that you can do, any form of work, every hour that you're awake, scrolling endlessly on your phone, just numbing the pain, just finding any way to escape, thinking about it, doing the work, finding any way to escape the emotion, when we just need to take the time to just name it. This is what I'm going through, and why am I feeling like this? Like, going through the process. Find yourself gambling, because that's a new thing that's going on in the world, is gambling. You find yourself lost in, adult video, adult entertainment. All these things are just ways for you to numb the pain, and you need to find a way out of that. Anything that temporarily distracts you from emotional pain without addressing it, is a vice. It's something that you're using to numb the pain. And it's important to recognize the difference between healthy coping and avoiding what you're really feeling. You have to understand the difference between, yes, I'm doing this because this, increase the peace, versus I'm doing this because I don't want to think. It's important to recognize the difference between healthy coping and avoiding what you're feeling. So if you find yourself, getting lost or getting into a routine of drinking or using, street drugs or any drug, working too much, gambling, spending too much time on the phone, overindulging in self-pleasures, and adult entertainment, right then and there, be present and address that issue. You know what I mean? Because that is one of the ultimate signs, for men of going through, some form of depression. So what can you do today? So if you've recognized yourself, then one or more of these signs, one thing I want to tell you is don't panic, but don't ignore them either. You got to take small steps and check in with someone you trust. Write down, what you've been feeling over the past couple weeks. Prioritize sleep. Prioritize movement. Prioritize regular meals, because if these feelings are lasting, these feelings are becoming more intense, or making daily life harder, you really must consider talking to some type of licensed therapist or licensed counselor as well. Asking for support should not be looked at as giving up. Change that perspective and understand that asking for that help is a form of taking care of yourself, in which most of us need to do a better job of nowadays, is taking care of ourselves. So one of the strongest things a man can do is become more aware of what's happening, what's happening inside before it begins to affect everything and everyone around them. So depression is not something that I want you to allow to define you, but otherwise understand that it's something that can be, recognized. It's something that can be understood, and it's something that can be treated. And the sooner you acknowledge it, the sooner you become aware of it. That's the sooner that you can begin to move toward healing. Excuse me. So remember, you don't have to suffer in silence. You know what I mean? You don't have to carry everything by yourself. But understand that healing begins with honesty. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. If this video gave you any form of new perspective, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to TTimeTV. As we are running this M2H Academy right now, the first part. This is video 2. So share this video with a brother, share it with a father, a son, a friend, a co-worker, anybody who may need to hear this message, and let me know in the comments, which of these 5 signs do you think men overlook the most? Out of the 5 that we've given, which one do you think men overlook the most? And when we check back in the next video, we're going to be tackling another conversation that I'm sure every man needs to hear. But until then, continue to protect your peace. Continue to prioritize your health. Remember, a better man creates a better family. A better family, a better community, and a better future, and ultimately a better world. Positive energy always creates elevation. Peace.